Hi, and welcome to BeatleDave's Beatles channel. Today's video is episode 4 of the solo years, so please come and join me. So yes, hello and a wonderfully warm welcome to BeatleDave's Beatles channel. So here we are all again then guys, and I hope you're really well out there, and thank you for joining me again today. So today's video is episode 4 of the solo years, the 1970s, where today I'll be looking at the majestic George Harrison album All Things Must Pass, which was released 52 years ago today in America. Also George's proper first solo album, and also my favourite solo Beatles album by any of the guys, as I'm sure it's also one of your favourites too. So in this series I will be showing every single solo Beatles album in order of release from the 1970s, also including any USA issues and reissues within the time frame, and of course any 8 tracks along the way as well. So now though, it's time for something a little bit different. It's Ask BeatleDave, yeah! So yes, welcome to Ask BeatleDave, where I'll be answering your questions that you have about anything Beatles related, maybe about any items that I've shown or haven't shown, or anything to do with the guys' solo careers, just about anything you can think of, and I'll endeavour to answer it right here. So today's question is from Cassette for Beatles Vinyl. How you doing out there, my friend? Hope you're well. And he asks, BeatleDave, every country or reissue on Apple seems to have a unique label to it. What is your favourite type of Apple label? I put Brazil's Apple label at the top for me. So yeah, I mean, oh wow, there's so many fabulous Beatles Apple labels out there. And the Brazilian one's definitely a great looking label. I also like the French type, and I like the American issued ones, but probably the earlier, slightly darker ones that they issued. But for me, it has to be the original UK design Apple label. There's just something so special about it, and it's got such an awesome look. Although sometimes the text is very dark and hard to read on them. And obviously you've got that fabulous B-side label as well that is equally just as good. So Cassette, I really hope that answers your question for you. And guys, if you want to contribute to Ask BeatleDave, just send me a question in the comments and I'll include it in a future episode. It's that simple. So come on guys, please me by getting involved and ask me some super questions. Okay now, so moving on, it's time for I Call Your Name. So yes, it's time for them old shout-outs, and it's a great big BeatleDave hello to It's Only Rock and Roll podcast. Hiya Don, don't forget to check this fabulous channel out on YouTube. Michael Rice, how you doing Michael? Mark Fogden, Angie the Beatles Girl, Will C137, Joe Rob 46, Martin Robinson, and Aretha Franklin Whitney Houston. So that's a big hi to you guys from yours truly, BeatleDave. So on to the main event then now, and I present to you the solo years episode 4, continuing with George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. So please, come and join me. All Things Must Pass by George Harrison was released on the 27th of November 1970 in the USA and 3 days later in the UK on the 30th. And although technically George's third release after Wonderwall Music and Electronic Sounds, he considered this triple LP as his first true solo album. Being released in the same year after the public announcement of the Beatles split in April, the album boasted the hit singles My Sweet Lord and What Is Life, as well as such songs as Isn't It a Pity and the title track, which had been previously overlooked for inclusion on releases by the Beatles. In January 1970, George invited Phil Spector to produce the Plastic Ono Band single Instant Karma, which in turn led to Spector working on the Beatles' Let It Be album and later co-producing All Things Must Pass. During May 1970, George preceded the sessions by recording demos of his songs, where he was also accompanied on some tracks by Ringo Starr and Klaus Voormann, but mainly they featured just George and his acoustic guitar. With sessions starting in earnest on the 26th of May at Abbey Road, the majority of the backing tracks were all recorded on 8-track until around the middle of June, with Spector recording most of the backing tracks live. According to Klaus Voormann, George would set the mood with burning incense so that the atmosphere would be just right. Having suffered in the Beatles at McCartney's tendency to dictate how each musician should play, Harrison allowed the contributors the freedom to express themselves in their playing. Spector's erratic behaviour had somewhat caused problems during the sessions, and he eventually withdrew from the project after falling over drunk in the studio and breaking his arm. Early in July, work on All Things Must Pass was temporarily brought to a halt as Harrison headed north to see his dying mother for the last time. EMI had also growing concerns regarding studio costs, adding more pressure onto George, but another unforeseen complication had also arose, with Eric Clapton becoming infatuated with Harrison's wife, Pattie Boyd. In Spector's absence, Harrison completed the album's backing tracks and carried out preliminary overdubs, doing much of the later work at Trident Studios with former Beatles engineer Ken Scott. During the final mixing on the 9th of October 1970, George presented John Lennon with his recently recorded track, It's Johnny's Birthday. With the final preparation and sequencing being carried out with Phil Spector in New York, George had doubts as to whether all the songs were good enough, but Alan Steckler, who was manager of Apple Records in the US, was stunned by the quality of the material and told George to issue all the songs. Harrison commissioned Tom Wilkes to design a hinged box in which to house the 3 vinyl discs, with the cover photo being taken at Friar Park by Barry Feinstein. Feinstein himself had interpreted the 4 knowns laid out on the lawn as a possible reference to George's removal from the Beatles' collective identity. All Things Must Pass had the distinction of the same catalogue number on both sides of the Atlantic, with the album hitting number 1 in the USA for 7 weeks on Billboard and also number 1 in the UK for a total of 8 weeks. It was the first triple album of previously unissued music to achieve this level of success. So let's take a look. So here it is then, the wonderfully majestic album All Things Must Pass by George Harrison, released on the 27th of November 1970 in the USA, 52 years ago exactly today, on Apple Records, catalogue number STCH639. So starting with the box then, of course, you've got George Harrison there, All Things Must Pass, with the photo of George on the lawn at Friar Park, with the 4 knowns collectively supposed to be the Beatles, possibly. Who knows, really. But this, obviously being the USA box, is a lot thinner than the UK original box, which we'll come to in a wee while. So let's take a look at the back then. And of course you've got slight texture there, this one. We'll take a look inside. See if we can open that out. But you've got the orange artwork, of course, on both sides. And of course you've got sides 1 to 6 there. You've got some absolutely fantastic tracks. I'll Have You Anytime, My Sweet Lord, Wah Wah, Isn't It a Pity version 1, with What Is Life, If Not For You, Behind That Locked Door, Let It Down, Run of the Mill. Then side 3 you've got Beware of Darkness, Apple Scruffs, Ballad of Frankie Crisp, Let It Roll, Awaiting on You All, and All Things Must Pass there. Side 4 being I Dig Love, Art of Dying, Isn't It a Pity version 2, and Hear Me Lord, with side 5 being The Jams, Out of the Blue, It's Johnny's Birthday, Plug Me In, and then side 6, I Remember Jeep, and Thanks for the Pepperoni. And then of course you've got the following musicians contributed to this album, with drums and percussion, Ringo Starr, Jim Gordon and Alan White. Bass you've got Klaus Voormann and Carl Raddle. Keyboards is Gary Wright, Bobby Whitlock, Billy Preston and Gary Brooker. With pedal steel, Pete Drake. Guitar, of course, George Harrison, Dave Mason, and of course you've got the credit for Eric Clapton on the USA edition. With tenor saxophone, Bobby Keys, trumpet, Jim Price, rhythm guitars and percussion, Badfinger. And of course Mal Evans, T, Sympathy and tambourine. And of course introducing the George O'Hara Smith Singers. Let's take a look at that spine as well then. So it's a lot thinner, this spine, compared to the UK one. So with your original USA edition of All Things Must Pass, you would have got this poster, and on the bottom right there it's got printed in the USA with the catalogue number, and I'll see if I can unfold it as best I can for you guys to see, of course. And there you go, you've got George there in the halls of his mansion there at Friar Park. Great photo of George, really nice poster. So then we've got these cartridge inner sleeves which are all made in the USA, even the UK ones, it always came with the USA edition ones. And of course you've got the lyrics there to side 1 songs on that side, and on the following side all the side 2 songs. But this is in absolutely perfect condition and no tears. So on to record 1 vinyl then. And the great thing about this particular American edition is you've actually got the same font as on the box set, and it looks really fabulous on the labels. So you've got All Things Must Pass there, George Harrison with stereo, and the catalogue number, and the matrix number which is on side 1 STCH-1-639. With side 1, and of course you've got the 4 first fabulous songs of the album. We're produced by George Harrison and Phil Spector, recorded in England. And let's flip that over to side 2. Once again then you've got All Things Must Pass there, George Harrison with stereo, and the catalogue number with the matrix number on side 2 being STCH-2-639. And side 2 with the next lot of tracks there, and produced by George Harrison and Phil Spector, recorded in England, with the manufactured by Apple Records Inc. at the bottom. Absolutely fabulous looking vinyl this, really nice weight to it too. So onto the cartridge paper inner then for record 2. Once again you've got side 3 lyrics there on that side, and side 4 lyrics on that side. Okay, so record 2, sides 3 and 4, same type label with the same font as on the box set itself. All Things Must Pass, George Harrison with stereo, the catalogue number then, and the matrix for side 3 which is STCH-3-639, and side 3 with the next lot of tracks, and produced by George Harrison and Phil Spector, recorded in England. And flipping that over then to the slice side, once again All Things Must Pass with George Harrison there, and the stereo with the catalogue number, and the matrix on this side is STCH-4-639, and side 4. Really great looking labels these. Next lot of great tracks there, with produced by George and of course Phil Spector, once again recorded in England and manufactured by Apple Records Inc. Really super. So time for a bit of Apple Jam, of course. So you've got the final cartridge paper inner sleeve there with that logo of Apple Jam. Then on the opposite side then, of course, it says Apple Jam recorded during sides 1, 2, 3 and 4, with side 5 and side 6 and that Apple logo at the bottom. And this one's in absolutely perfect shape. So on to the final disc of the set then, which is the Apple Jam album, additional album. It's supposed to have been a free album, but it never actually was. They ended up charging for it. So you've got the special Apple Jam labels there with stereo and the catalogue number with the matrix number, which is STCH-5-639. And side 5 and the 3 jams on this side, including It's Johnny's Birthday, of course, which was for John Lennon. And at the bottom there you've got recorded in England with the manufactured by Apple Records Inc. on the perimeter. And let's flip that over. The final side, side 6 there, and you've got stereo with the catalogue number, and the final matrix of this particular set is STCH-6-639. And on the bottom there you've got manufactured by Apple Records Inc. So moving on then to the USA 8-track, which was released on the 27th of November 1970 on Apple Records catalogue number 8XWB-639. So this particular 8-track then is completely sealed. Very, very hard to find these days in this particular condition. Of course there you got George Harrison, All Things Must Pass, Slightly smaller photo, of course, with a couple of gnomes, or one gnome and a little bit of another one. And at the bottom left there, you've got the catalogue number with the orange apple. And then flipping it over to the top, you've got George Harrison, All Things Must Pass, contains 2 8-track cartridges. And of course there, it's equivalent to the 3-record box set, and the catalogue number again. And the same on the side. If I turn it around that way, you've got exactly the same information on the side, with a little bit more of the photo. And then on the back, you've got all the tracks, which are slightly different running order. And actually the whole of cartridge 2 contains the whole of sides 5 and 6, which is all the jams. And there you've got produced by George, and of course Phil Spector, recorded in England. Manufactured in the USA by 1700 Broadway, Apple Records Inc., New York. So on to another fabulous item then, and it's the USA Cassette box set, which was released on the 27th of November 1970 on Apple Records and Tapes, catalogue number 4XWB-39. So of course these are really rare to find these days, and this one's completely sealed. George Harrison, All Things Must Pass there, with a slightly smaller photo of George with a gnome there, and of course you've got the catalogue number and the orange apple. And we'll turn that to the spine. Of course, that one's the right way up. So you've got George Harrison there, All Things Must Pass, contains 2 cassettes, equivalent to the 3-record set, with the orange apple and the catalogue number. And of course, you've got another gnome there. And on the back there, you've got the complete track listing of cassette 1 and 2, and produced by George and Phil Spector, recorded in England. And this is manufactured by Apple Records Inc., 1700 Broadway, New York. And there you go, you've got another little photo of George there, or you've got the full image there with the gnomes. And of course at the top there, you've got the same information as on the side. Really fabulous item, really great to see these, really brilliant. So on to the UK All Things Must Pass box sets that I have to show then, released on the 30th of November 1970 on Apple Records, catalogue number STCH639. So this box set actually is a recent addition to my collection, and it's in absolutely mint condition, absolutely the best one I've ever come across, and it didn't cost me too much as well, it didn't cost the earth at all, really reasonable price. And you can see it's really white on the front there. It's so nice, really fantastic. You got the photo of George there at Friar Park with the 4 gnomes, of course. And let's flip that over. And of course the UK box, it's got a textured back, a really nice texture on the back there. And you got that hinge there, the cloth hinge that supports the front to the back. It's in beautiful condition. Let's turn that over and have a look on the inside. Of course the UK set's been a lot thicker, actually had a spacer at the back, which is that piece of cardboard there on the right hand side. And there you've got the same details as the American version there, all the track listings and all the fellow contributors, of course all the musicians, and of course at the bottom, made and printed in Great Britain. Of course the only difference actually is you haven't got the Eric Clapton credit with the musicians there, but this is in absolutely tremendous condition. Let's take a look at that spine and the thickness of the box, of course, which is a lot thicker. So onto the poster then. Obviously the UK edition should have a UK poster with it. And then you've got the same photo of George there at Henley-on-Thames, Friar Park, in his hallway, looking really cool. And then at the bottom of the poster, on the right hand side, is the Made in Great Britain with the catalogue number. So onto the first cartridge paper inner sleeve then. Obviously, once again, these are all made in the USA, as both the UK and USA ones were. And of course, you've got the lyrics for side 1 on this side, and the lyrics for side 2 on the other side. Once again, this is in absolutely perfect condition. So on to vinyl number 1 then, of this 3-record set. And I'm pretty sure that George was the first to use an alternate label, rather than the regular Granny Smith, of course. And obviously later on, John used the white labels and Ringo was blue and so on and so on. But this is in absolutely pristine condition. Absolutely fantastic. You've got the Apple Records around the perimeter there with All Things Must Pass. And the 33 1/3 with manufactured in the UK and stereo on the left. Of course, on the right there, you've got the catalogue number, side 1, and the P1970. With all the tracks there, and produced by Harrison and Spector, with George Harrison and an EMI recording. Of course, early copies actually had recorded in England on the bottom of the label as well. And the matrix on side 1 then is YEX817-1. So we're going to flip that over to side 2. Once again there you've got the Apple records on the perimeter, with All Things Must Pass, and the 33 1/3, manufactured in the UK in stereo on the left. With on the right there the catalogue number, side 2 and P1970. With all the tracks on side 2 there, were produced by George and Phil Spector, with George Harrison and an EMI recording. And on side 2 then the matrix is YEX818-1. And it's a really nice weight to this one actually as well. Feels really great. So onto the grey cartridge paper in a sleeve then. That's side 3. And then you've got side 4 there. So on to record 2 then of this 3-album set, sides 3 and 4. And George really did deserve the success he got with this album, undoubtedly. Just an absolutely momentous album. I can play this album back to back, it's just truly wonderful. So of course there you've got the Apple records around the perimeter again, with the All Things Must Pass, 33 1/3, manufactured in the UK in stereo on the left. Then you've got the catalogue number, side 3 with the P1970. Then you've got all the tracks there with the production details, with George Harrison and an EMI recording. The side 3 matrix being YEX819-1. So we're going to flip that over to the final side of songs on this album. Once again there you've got the Apple records on the perimeter, with the All Things Must Pass across the top there. And the 33 1/3, manufactured in the UK in stereo on the left, with the catalogue number, side 4, and the P1970 to the right. With all the tracks listed there and produced by Harrison and Spector, with George Harrison and an EMI recording. And finally then on the matrix on this side is YEX820-1. And once again it's in absolutely pristine condition, absolutely beautiful this one. So onto the Apple Jam cartridge inner then. Of course you've got that fabulous Apple Jam logo there. And on the other side, all the details of all the jams, of course, with the Apple logo at the bottom. So on to record 3 then, which is obviously the Apple Jams. And you've got that special Apple Jam label there, with the Apple records around the perimeter, and All Things Must Pass, with the 33 1/3, manufactured in the UK, and an EMI recording, and the P1970 on the left, with the stereo, catalogue number, and side 5 to the right there, with the tracks listed. Of course you've got It's Johnny's Birthday for John Lennon on this side, and at the bottom there you've got the production credits of Harrison and Spector, and George Harrison right at the bottom, with the matrix being on this side YEX821-1. Going to flip that over. For the final side then, got that Apple Jam special label again, with the Apple records on the perimeter, and the All Things Must Pass there across the top there, with the 33 1/3, manufactured in the UK, and an EMI recording, with the P1970 on the left. And on the right there we've got stereo, with the catalogue number and side 6, with the remaining 2 songs there, and the production credits, and George Harrison right at the bottom. And finally the last matrix number is YEX822-1. And what an absolutely momentous album this really is. So on to my final All Things Must Pass box set, which I'm going to show today then. This is another UK edition, released on the 30th of November 1970 on Apple Records, catalogue number STCH639. And this second one I've got here is a slightly different variation, which we'll come to in a moment. This one ain't quite as nice as the previous one, but it's still extremely good condition. It's still really hard to find these in really anything like mint condition. But this one just got a tiny little bit of staining by George's head there, and a little bit on the top right. Certainly nothing major, but it's an absolutely solid box. Once again, there you got George Harrison and All Things Must Pass there, with that great photo of George sitting there in his gardens with the 4 knowns. And let's take a look on the back again there. Of course, you've got that textured reverse, really nice. And we'll flip that open and I'll show you what the difference is between the last set I showed and of course this one. And it is, you've got the spacer at the back on this particular set is white. Whether they were later or earlier, I don't actually know actually, but I think actually possibly they were a little bit later with these white backings. But once again, on the left there, you've got all the same details as the previous set, all the song details exactly the same, with all the production credits, and made and printed in Great Britain at the bottom. And of course, you haven't got the Eric Clapton credit on this box either. But it's in an absolutely beautiful condition. And we're just going to close that up and show you the spine then. So onto the poster then, which is once again made and printed in Great Britain. It's a slightly different feel to these posters actually. Slightly thinner than the US one, but it's still great. So let's fold that open, and then you can see George in all his glory there. And once again, we've got those fabulous cartridge paper inners, which always seem to suffer and get splits in, but these ones are absolutely perfect condition. Once again, we've got record 1, which is exactly the same as the previous pressing. There's no variations on this particular one. You've still got the Apple records on the perimeter there with All Things Must Pass, and the 33 1/3, manufactured in the UK in stereo on the left, with the catalogue number on the right there, with the side 1 and P1970 there, with all the tracks at the bottom, and produced by Harrison and Spector, with the EMI recording details at the bottom. This one's in just as good condition as the other set, these records, absolutely beautiful. Once again then, the matrix number on this side is YEX 817-1. I'm going to flip that over. Side 2. Once again, you've got the Apple Records perimeter with the All Things Must Pass there, the 33 1/3, manufactured in the UK in stereo on the left, with the catalogue number, side 2 and P1970 there, with all the songs, the production credits, with George Harrison and an EMI recording at the bottom, with the matrix being then YEX 818-1. So onto the grey cartridge inner then, with all the lyrics for side 3 and of course side 4. Onto record 2, and I just played this the other day and I can tell you that the original pressing sounds absolutely fantastic, probably the best one to have. I know obviously you got the remastered ones, but there's something about these original pressings that just sounds so great. Once again there, you got the Apple records on the perimeter, with the All Things Must Pass there across the top, and the 33 1/3, manufactured in the UK in stereo on the left, with the catalogue number, side 3 and P1970 to the right, with all the tracks and of course the production details, George Harrison and an EMI recording, with the matrix again on side 3, YEX 819-1. I'm flipping that over for side 4. Once again, you've got the Apple records on the perimeter, with the All Things Must Pass details, 33 1/3, manufactured in the UK in stereo, and on the right of course you've got the catalogue number, with side 4 and the P1970, with all those great tracks on this side, and of course production details with George Harrison and an EMI recording right at the bottom, with the matrix on side 4 being YEX 820-1. So the final inner sleeve then, the cartridge inner sleeve, is for the Apple Jam one, which was recorded during sides 1, 2, 3 and 4. Then you've got all the track details there, side 5 and 6, and of course manufactured by Apple Records Inc. in New York, 1700 Broadway, New York, with that Apple logo at the bottom there. Of course, on the back of that, we got that fabulous Apple Jam logo. So on to the final vinyl then. Of course, it's the Apple Jam one. And of course, you've got the special Apple Jam label there with the Apple records around the perimeter and All Things Must Pass with the 33 1/3 manufactured in the UK, an EMI recording and the P1970 on the left. With on the right there you've got stereo, the catalogue number and side 5 with the tracks listed, and Harrison and Spector produced by, and George Harrison at the bottom. With the matrix on this side then is YEX 821-1. I'm going to flip that over to the final side of side 6. Of course, you've got the Apple Jam label again with Apple records around the perimeter. All Things Must Pass there with 33 1/3 manufactured in the UK, an EMI recording and the P1970 on the left. With on the right being stereo, the catalogue number and side 6 with the final 2 tracks, and produced by Harrison and Spector with George Harrison right at the bottom. Finally, the last matrix number is YEX 822-1. And if you want to see some more All Things Must Pass box sets that I've got in my collection, there's a video I did about a year ago which I'll put up on the screen, which includes a fabulous Japanese red vinyl version. Absolutely beautiful. So check that one out, guys. But this particular UK edition is also in absolutely beautiful condition. So thank you all for joining me today, guys, and tuning in. And who would have thought after 52 years that we're still showing and discussing this absolutely momentous album. So I really hope you've enjoyed seeing all these fabulous All Things Must Pass things today on this special episode, of course. And I really appreciate any comments or communication that I get from any of you, and I'll always reply to you just as soon as I can. So the next episode of the Solo Years will of course be back again next month with the John Lennon Plastic Ono Band album. So next week then, I will be showing some related items based upon the Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl. So please make sure you're here, same Beatles time, same Beatles channel, next week. So as always, guys, if you enjoy what I'm doing, why not give us a like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos. This is BeatleDave signing off.